Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Tanzu Community Edition weekly community meetings. Today's date is April 13th, 2022. If you are watching this from home as a recording, we would love for you to come and join us live. We meet every week, Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific time. If that doesn't work for you, we also meet monthly, held every second Thursday of the month at 9 a.m. India Standard Time. And these are just opportunities for you to come and meet the maintainers, listen on what we've been working on, provide feedback, ask questions. You can also just sit and observe. You don't necessarily have to engage with us. We would still love to meet you and have you participate and join the community. So hopefully those options do work for you, but if not, there are other ways to reach us. You can find us in the Kubernetes Slack workspace in the Tanzu Community Edition channel. You can ask your questions on the GitHub discussions, add your request or question or suggestion to our issues list. You can email us in the Google Groups email address, or you can find us on Twitter at VMware TCE. If you do have something you want to bring up with the team and you want to participate in one of these meetings, you can add that to the discussion topic section of the agenda for the date that you will be joining us. And that's just down here at the bottom. And once we get through all the other stuff, we'll get to your question and we can have a discussion about it. At any point you are interacting with us or any members of the community through any of these mediums, we ask that you please read and abide by our code of conduct, which is here and it links out to our repo. For those that are using Tanzu Community Edition, we would love to know more about how you are using it. So we've created this pinned issue asking for a few details about yourself and how you're using it. So if you could, please add those details in a comment. Add a PNG logo, a version of your logo. If you wish to be added to a adopters file, it's not required, but we would love to showcase those organizations that are using Tanzu Community Edition to show other community members who all is using it. For those that are in attendance today, please make sure to add your name and the company that you are representing to the attendees list here. And on to announcements. So for content-wise, we've added a few different things here. We have KubeCon, Cloud Native Con Europe coming up as far as events goes of where Tanzu Community Edition folks are going to be. We have several talks that are participating in either KubeCon or related events in Valencia. We have David, who is one of the Tanzu Community Edition maintainers. He's doing a talk on May 14th, learnings from creating CI/CD pipelines for open source Kubernetes projects. We have vCorbs delivering a keynote at KNativeCon on Tuesday, May 17th. And we have John McBride, who's a Tanzu Community Edition maintainer, delivering a talk on Wednesday, May 18th, the risks of single maintainer dependencies, because he's also a maintainer of another project. So be sure to look at that and see more details about that. And we have myself delivering a talk at KubeCon on Thursday, May 19th, talking about being a community manager and all the crazy nuances that come along with that. And I will be doing that talk with my co-speaker, Karen Chu, who's community manager for Helm. And then we have talks by Stephen Wong, who is also working on Tanzu Community Edition. And he has two different talks and I think a few others in the works. So I put just a link out there to his talk. So if you would like to attend either virtually or in person, I believe all these have those options. Be sure to click on that, go register. If you're there in person, come say hi. We would love to meet you and know more about you. Other opportunities to see us at these events. We will have some booth presence at KubeCon, but stay tuned for more details on that. We're still ironing out everything. And then we also want to do some sort of, informal get together, whether that be like just having lunch together at the conference setup. We're not really sure yet, but once we have more details on when and where we'll be, you can just come and say hi, hang out, just get to know each other. We would love to meet everybody that's going to be in attendance. So really excited, really looking forward to that. Hope to see you there. Next up, we have webinars. So upcoming webinar, we have something coming up tomorrow, April 14th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Speed app delivery with modern software supply chains in VMware Tanzu Community Edition. That's with Jennifer Kotzen, Cora Aberclade, and Bina Moore. And so just be sure to click on that and register to attend. We also have a blog post that was posted a few days ago by Stephen Pausty, comparing managed and unmanaged clusters on VMware Tanzu Community Edition. And then as far as the next announcements go, we are working towards a May 10th release date for 0.12. And with that, let's move on to status updates on that particular release. So for engineering updates, Josh, you want to give it a whirl?
Yeah, sure. So we'll do just a quick overview and then John's going to give a demo. So as you've heard, we're targeting May 10th. Probably have RC1 next week if all goes well. Some key things in the core that are happening is there'll be some small updates to our bill of materials. You'll see Kubernetes 122.8 in this release. You might also be aware of some etcd corruption issues in the version of etcd we've been using, and this will be mitigated in this release. The framework version, if anybody plays around under the hood with Tanzu framework, will be on a framework version that is v0.11.4. And then outside of that, there will be a bunch of enhancements to unmanaged clusters. We're going to have a new feature called profiles that John will show, a new provider that John will show. We are introducing start and stop lifecycle hooks where you can stop a cluster and start a cluster. Some cool stuff where we can provide updates to our bill of materials. So like Kubernetes versions and package versions dynamically. We call that dynamic TKR resolution. That's kind of the fancy name for it. And then probably the only thing that we had talked about doing that's at risk and might not happen in this release is right now our default CNI for unmanaged clusters is Calico. There's some latency in some of the package stuff we're trying to update and some small little issues we're hitting. So we might stick with Calico in this release and then switching back to Entrea as the default in unmanaged cluster in v0.13. Entrea will still be fully available. You can still set it as your CNI. It just might not be the default for this release. And Kartik, I noticed you're on. Is there anything before John gives his demo you want to talk about with these app dev enhancements?
Yeah, just quick sort of the purpose of these enhancements. One is around the app CLI, just as a way to interact with what is going to be called what is known as the workload object that comes from Cartographer. So the app CLI makes it sort of intuitive for an app developer to interact with various operations as you would with a workload, seeing the logs or getting you the URL and so forth. The basic supply chain is, it's actually, I should rename that to be called Cartographer Catalog. Today in this release will come with like a basic supply chain pattern that gives you an out-of-the-box way of using Cartographer with going from sort of source code in your Git repo to a Knative service. So it kind of describes that pattern and can be the basis for any customizations you may want to do. The third one is what is known as the KPAC dependencies. It kind of helps you bootstrap cluster store, stack, and builder, which are the resources you may need to be able to build images. Yes, the Cartographer will be updated to the 0.3 release in TCE. I think that PR is currently in review from Nick. So yeah, those are all the kind of enhancements that are coming.
Awesome. And then that's it for us, Nancy. If now would be a good time for John, we can see a demo of these cool new features.
Yeah. If I could get the screen, here we go. Alrighty, hello everybody. This is going to be a demo of unmanaged clusters, Minikube profiles. Oh my, there's so much stuff coming in V012 for unmanaged clusters, but we want to focus on the new Minikube Provider and specifying profiles on unmanaged cluster bootstrapping. So these are new features coming in V012.0. And first up is the Minikube Provider. I think most people in here probably know what Minikube is. For those that don't, it's a way to quickly get a local Kubernetes cluster, Mac OS, Windows, and really its focus is on learning and development for Kubernetes itself. What makes it really, really powerful is that it has a ton of different drivers and ways that you can deploy it. So VMware even has their own driver for VMware Workstation. There's obviously Docker, KVM. It's great. So this gives people deploying unmanaged clusters with this provider a ton of different ways to deploy to different types of container runtimes and virtual machine managers. So very exciting. But why tell when we can do? So let's do a Minikube demo here. Let me get over to my terminal. So quick, let's look at Tanzu, unmanaged cluster. Let's see what version we're on. Just a quick note, this is a patch that I made this morning. There's a PR for a couple of the config options in here. So if you try some of the things we're going to be doing off of main today, you might just need to wait for the release, but this is kind of the experience as it exists today. So first up, Minikube can be accessed through the Minikube command line. Let's just take a quick peek inside of there to see what current deployments are on here, and that is via the profile list. Also of note, the word profile is a bit overloaded in this demo. So in the context of Minikube, a profile is basically a cluster or a deployment within what Minikube knows about. There shouldn't be any profiles. There's no Minikube deployments because I cleaned everything up earlier. So let's go ahead and just fire right into it. We can do unmanaged cluster. We're going to call this mini test. And then with the provider flag, we can just say Minikube. And that is going to get going right away. Also of note here, we can see this, this chunk right here, which this is actually querying a compatibility file. Josh had mentioned that as part of the feature as well, but that compatibility file will make sure that this deployment with a compatible TKR of this version of the CLI. So that's just a little preview of that deploying right there. It selected a compatible TKR, this V017.0 dev2, and it's off to the races with Minikube deploying right here. So this will take just a little bit longer because Minikube deployments just take a hot second longer versus Kind. So if there's any intermittent questions, we can answer those. Okay, the cluster is created. It's already started to install kapp-controller. And for those who maybe are joining and are unfamiliar with what unmanaged cluster is, if we like really kind of take a step back, unmanaged cluster is a way that we provide to generally give a local cluster that is kind of Tanzuified. It has kapp-controller on it, and it will have the package repository and all the packages that then you can install with Tanzu package. So we'll take a look at that as well. So yeah, feel free to ask questions in the chat or raise a hand or interrupt anytime while this is going. This should just be another second longer. So right now what it's doing is it's installing the core repository. It's reconciling that. We can see that is happening. Yeah, these demos are gonna have a little bit of a pause, but that is just a-okay. All right, cool. That wasn't too bad. So that finished. We can do that same command, inspecting into Minikube, which we can think of as kind of the next layer down. It's the actual provider, which sits under unmanaged cluster. So let's just take a look in their Minikube profile list. And we can see our profile Minikube test right there is running. Awesome. So let's use a utility that I like called K9s, which just kind of gives us a fast graphical user interface to fly around the cluster. Let's look at the pods. Those are initializing, those are running. We can also look at, let's look at the package, let's look at the packages. And kind of like I was mentioning, this is all the packages that exist in our community package repository. And then we also, if we scroll down, we can see the TKG system ones. These are the core packages. If we look at package installs, this gave us the CNI, which is the default Calico CNI, like Josh mentioned. So that is just the most basic way of doing this. We can also Tanzu unmanaged cluster ls, and we can see the Minikube provider, and it is running. Kind of like Josh mentioned, the start and stop lifecycle hooks are now available. Let's just take a peek at those. Unmanaged cluster, we'll just say help, and we can see start and stop. That will kind of inspect into Minikube or Kind or whatever provider you have and do the start and stop for that cluster. We won't do that right now, but that is available. So that's the most basic option. Let's delete that cluster now. Unmanaged cluster, delete mini test, and that deletes pretty quickly within seconds. So now let's do a more interesting, slightly more complicated-ish demo here. So let's do Tanzu unmanaged cluster config. And what the config command gives you is bootstrapping a config file that you can then feed into the create command a little bit later. So let's do config, and let's just call this mini test. I think I actually already had one in here. So Tanzu unmanaged cluster config mini test, and then let's give this the provider, just like you would with create. So provider, we're going to say Minikube. This might fail because I already have mini test rm mini test. Try that again, provider mini test. Okay, so that's going to write our configuration YAML file right there. And we're going to vim mini test. So this is just the config file that it basically spits out with all the options that you can configure to create. So like Josh said, start in Minikube a cluster. So we can see here provider is Minikube. And then we do have this provider configuration with, which gives us specific options per provider. So one of the cool ones, like I mentioned, is we can specify driver. So let's do driver, not like that. I know how to YAML. Driver, and it's what I want to use is KVM. And what KVM is on Linux is a kernel-based virtual machine manager. So this will be right on top of my Linux box that I'm SSH onto, kind of bypassing Docker. And then we can also specify the container runtime. So container runtime, and we're going to say container D. So instead of using Docker as the default container runtime, we're going to use just right away container D here. And then I also, let's say that I want to specify something really unique, like something that Minikube, provides way deep down in some config flag. I can give raw Minikube args, and let's just say I want the disk size to be a little bigger. So let's do disk size, and let's just go something like that. There we go. Cool. So that will build the kind of.
Does that need to be a list, John?
Excuse me?
Does that need to be a list for Minikube args?
No. So this is just a
it's just a string.
Big string. It's a big string. Yeah, it's a big string of args. So let's say I wanted like, CPU,
Very cool.
something. Yeah, it would just be a big long list of args. Yeah. So it kind of takes this this string and just plops it right into a Minikube command and interprets those as is. So yeah, great question. Great question. So KVM, we got container D, and we got a custom argument in there. Let's quit out of here, and let's use that in a Tanzu unmanaged cluster. Great. So just file mini test.yaml. And we can see right there in that warning that it's reading the provider configuration. Some of those specific flags may be ignored and or used. So that's just kind of a general warning for using the provider configuration. That's going to take another hot second. Yeah, any other questions, I guess? Oh, Josh loves the QEMU and KVM. This, in my experience deploying this, it just takes just a little bit longer since it's bootstrapping a virtual machine. So yeah, feel free to make comments or talk amongst yourselves.
Hey, John, can users use like Kind and Minikube, or do they need to pick between providers as they like spin up and down clusters?
You can mix and match, do both. The default will be Kind. So if I just did this create command and gave it a name, it will make a Kind cluster. If I did another one and said tac provider Minikube, those would live right next to each other as far as unmanaged cluster sees. So yeah, you can do both. Does that answer your question? I think I understood what you're saying. Cool. Okay, cluster created. While that's happening, let's create a side-by-side terminal. Let's Minicube profile list again, and we should get, oh, that is gross. Let me exit that. Let's do, nope, not that way. Please hold. Okay, there we go. That'll look better. Minicube profile list. And we can see this is running on KVM with the runtime containerd. Yeah, there's a bunch of these options. So I really recommend people curious about this or unfamiliar with Minicube itself to go through the documentation, look at the different drivers, look at like all the different things that are possible. Yeah, it's really, really cool and exciting. Okay, so that is done. We can come in here. Let's go back into, let's say, K9s. Take a look at everything just real quick again. And a lot of this is the same. So this is the package install with Calico. Let's look at pods. All that is bootstrapping. Let's look at packages. And there's all the packages. So this effectively is a unmanaged cluster on top of KVM with the containerd runtime. Very, very exciting. So I think that was mostly what I had for, just looking at my notes. Okay, cool. So let's get out of this and go back into Keynote. Any general questions on the Minicube demo, I guess? Time for questions at the end as well, if not. All right, cool. So next up, another big feature coming to unmanaged clusters is the idea of profiles. Again, a bit overloaded, name pending. Profiles is also something that TAP uses, the application platform. So this name is kind of in the ether right now. This is just what we went with during development. But essentially what you're getting here is an automatic way to install a package from an installed package repository. And you can provide a special syntax here to get the specific package by name, by version, and or with the package YAMLs, value YAMLs. So what this gives me is, any of these that I had installed in the package repo, FluentBit, Grafana, external DNS, app toolkit, any of those are then automatically installable on cluster bootstrapping. So right away in that create command from unmanaged cluster. So again, best way, let's take a peek at this. Come over here. Let's quit out of this. Let me just quick clean up again. And that should delete that in just a hot second. Scott said, so we can deploy a tap profile via TC profile on a Minicube profile. Yeah, naming is hard, but we will overcome. We will get there. So what I want to do is I want to just do the most basic example. Let's do Tanzu, unmanaged cluster, create. I'm just going to call this test. Let's not provide a provider right now. Let's just do the default kind. And what we could say is profile. Let's just do FluentBit. It can be the fully qualified name of that package or just a snippet here, and it will detect that package by name. So if I do this, it will do the latest FluentBit package with no values. This is just like the most basic install. I'm not gonna fire this off because it'll take another hot second. We're running a bit short on time, but this will give you FluentBit automatically installed on your cluster at bootstrapping. Like very, very cool. Let's do a slightly more complicated example, actually with App Toolkit, which App Toolkit is interesting because it's a whole bunch of packages, all kind of meta packaged together in a big thing that then all gets automatically installed via profiles on the unmanaged cluster. So I have a config file here. It should be app-toolkit.yaml. And this is really just the most basic thing for local install here using cluster APIs, cluster IP, excuse me. Let's quit out of there. And we can use that value YAMLs file with our profile, unmanaged cluster. So let's create, we're just going to call this test profile. So what I want to do is app toolkit, which will select that name by this prefix. And then we can also specify latest here as the version. That's a keyword inside of this special mapping, which will get the latest version for that package. So I could also specify 1.0, 0.1.0, which is the latest one, but latest is just easy. So then that YAML's file was called app-toolkit.yaml, I believe, and we go off to the races, and it will start deploying that. First, bootstrapping the kind cluster, which is really not the most interesting part of this. See another comment from Scott. Will it only autocomplete the full package name for TCE packages with the specific TCE suffix, or any package added via the additional package repos? That is a great question, Scott. Yes, it will work with additional package repos. I thought about putting that in here as well, but for the sake of time, for those that don't know, we also added the additional repo flag on top of create, which gives users the ability to automatically install a package repository via the URL of that package repository. So yes, you could use additional repo to install a package repo, and then use a profile to automatically install the package from that new repo that you had automatically installed. So the chain of kind of installation would be your custom repository. It then looks and sees that that name is in that repository and then installs that profile. But yeah, that would definitely be a really, really interesting use case for sure. Okay, and you would see that in this step. So in this step, it's reconciling the core repository, and then it will reconcile this project's registry, our community repository, and then you would also see it reconciling your additional repos repository here. After it does this reconciliation, it selects the package, and we could see that it did that right here. So installing profile app toolkit, it selected this one using profile version that with app toolkit YAMLs. Let's look at the K9s again, and let's go to pods. And a bunch of this starts coming up. Takes a bit of a minute. It looks like Kartik dropped, but yeah, all this starts coming up and automatically using our YAMLs file with those values. So if we go to package installs, we can see app toolkit here, and then it is reconciling all of those that are part of app toolkit as well, like cert manager, FlexCD, all that interesting stuff. I think I will actually, am I good to go to 12:45 or what's time on this these days? We went to 45 minutes on these, right?
Yeah. So we
Okay.
have, a little less than 15 minutes.
Okay. What I would love to do quick is actually put this all together. I think Scott even said something about, installing a profile on Minikube profile, but I would love to put this all together via a config file. So let me, again, just clean up real quick. Let's ls, that kind cluster is running Tanzu, unmanaged cluster, delete test. Cool. And that will get rid of that. So let me come back into my mini test YAML file. And this is, the provider configuration on KVM, all that. We can specify these profiles as a list here in the profiles configuration. So let's slap a few things in here and see what happens. So let's just do kind of like I had said before, let's do fluent bit. Let's also do, like I had before, app toolkit. And we can provide the fully qualified name to select exactly that one in case you maybe had a little bit of an overlap with the prefix name, like if you were adding an additional repo, and then we can provide the config, and that was app-toolkit.yaml. Again, that's relative to where you deploy, so be mindful of that. So this config file now actually has quite a bit going on. We are doing Minikube Provider with provider configurations, and we have specified two profiles, both FluentBit and App Toolkit. So if we save and quit this, we can Tanzu unmanaged cluster, create file, mini test. And again, that is off to the races. So first it's creating the Minikube cluster, then we'll see it reconciling the package repositories, and then it will reconcile those profiles, which again, will take a hot second. Scott asked, does it wait for a package profile to reconcile? Excellent question. It actually does not. So it adds the package install onto the cluster, which then kapp-controller can pick up and start reconciling and adding the actual, pods and all that stuff. But we do hand back the cluster to the user. And that was a pretty deliberate design decision, just so that if there are problems, you can see those problems, debug those problems, and it gets us to the next step in this flow of setting the context. That's really useful. Even though we do have this kube config right here, we felt that at the end of bootstrapping, the cluster is pretty much up. It's just maybe not reconciling the profiles or those packages or something. Instead of having the user have to go find this kube config file, just hand the cluster back to the user, do the context merge, and then it's right there ready on the command line, and you can start looking at stuff and debugging stuff. Yeah, definitely open to feedback on that if that's a user flow that it doesn't make sense or doesn't work for you. But yeah, that's an excellent question. And we kind of saw that with App Toolkit in the last example, where App Toolkit can take a minute to reconcile, but after these package repositories are ready, it pretty much just installs the package install. Like we'll see it right here. There it goes. There it goes. Installing Profile FluentBit, installing Profile App Toolkit. And we can see a few warnings here where it's saying, okay, I'm installing there's no version specified, so I'm going to use this one. No configuration file. We didn't specify a version in the config file here, so it's just using this latest one. It will try to select the latest one. But if we go into K9s, we can see, let's go to pods 0. All this is coming up still. So these packages actually haven't reconciled. So if we go to package installs, all these are, where's reconciling? My Zoom window's in the way. Yeah, so on the right there, you can see those are all still reconciling. Yeah, excellent question. Nice choice to set context and give control back to user. Yeah, we felt that was a good workflow. Scott said, would love maybe a flag to say, wait for profile. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Wait for reconciliation. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, because there could be use cases where you're deploying something and you have some automation that is waiting for Contour or KPack or something to be up right within the App Toolkit suite of tools. But yeah, that is all that's going to start coming up. We can watch that. That was it for the demo. Any additional questions, thoughts, comments, concerns? We can go back to pods too. Take a peek at all this.
Yeah, John, I think just to Scott's point as well about being able to disable the wait for profile is it might just help as well with the developer experience of creating new profiles, or if there's a problem with the profile, because then you can get access to the cluster even when the profile doesn't reconcile properly.
What is, I'm blanking, maybe Nick can comment, but what is the current behavior of Tanzu package install? Does that wait, or does that give the cluster back?
It waits.
It waits. Okay. Yeah, maybe we need to kind of smooth out that UX edge if there's a difference there. But yeah, let's create an issue, and yeah, we can definitely follow up on that in another release for sure.
Yeah, I think having a flag, I think it makes sense, the default that was set of not waiting for unmanaged. But I think that having the ability to wait for in CI/CD or any other automation that you would want to spin up a cluster, have, let's say, App Toolkit installed, and only once it's installed to continue, instead of needing to pull yourself the status of the package, have that be part of the bootstrapping itself. You get it back, you have a working cluster you can start working on.
Yeah, I'm totally following. Yeah, I can make an issue for that. I think I definitely understand that workflow for sure.
Right, any other questions, comments? Nope. John, thanks for doing that. It was an excellent demo. All right,
No problem.
We have about 5 minutes left. Let's take a look at the agenda. Okay, Shimon, you got some updates for UX stuff?
Yeah, first again, John, great demo. I'm basically filling in for Justin with an update on the guided UI plugin that we're developing. And these are basically 3 points as to where we are. We're continuing to refine the mockups for the welcome screen and the simplified workflows. We've done the AWS one, now we're doing the other providers. We're exploring the UX and APIs around the workload cluster creation, which is, of course, the second step after the management cluster creation. And then we're also doing some, we've done some scaffolding for the tech stack that are in place, building out, areas of the UI where the mockups are complete or almost. So any questions on that? Well,
Great, thanks, Shimon. Moving on to discussion topics. Looks like we still got about 5 minutes left. So someone put in included software in kapp-controller 0.35. Joe, is that you?
That was me. Sorry, I forgot to put my name. But just because this team there had been an ask originating from TZE, so I wanted to both make sure we close the loop, and the latest kapp-controller is pull requested into you all's repo. And for a little selfishly from my end, I'm kind of curious to hear how this fits into how this is going to get used in TCE.
Yeah, I could take that one if it's helpful. It's a little bit of a more complicated answer than I wish it was, but how it currently works today is that you're bringing in the upstream source for a package, in this case, kapp-controller. And the direction TC wants to head over time is that we pull in that upstream source directly. So like your thing gets merged, and ideally that kapp-controller, we'd be bringing it into this next release and talking about it. For a variety of technical reasons, we have to stay bound to the same version of underlying components that TKG ships with. This won't be this way forever, but it's the way it is right now. So in summary, there will be some latency wherein you've brought this in upstream. It'll eventually get slurped into a TKG release. And by the way, for those who don't know, TKG is VMware's product Tanzu Kubernetes Grid. And then once it gets slurped into that, it will be in a TCE release. So in summary, probably in like the era of like V013, which will be our release after this upcoming one, we'll probably see a bump like this in kapp-controller. Did that answer your question?
I think I guess I was hoping specifically for the included software where it's kind of this like, it's not an SBOM, but it's like a bill of materials light feature that allows packages to indicate like optionally what's included in them. I guess I was wondering specifically with that feature, what the use cases are in TCE.
Oh, sorry, I misread your question completely. I'm not entirely sure offhand. Have we had SBOM desires come from the TCE team?
I think the main one was around App Toolkit, where because App Toolkit is a meta package that includes sub packages, was a way on that package to say what packages it includes. To say we include within this single package, this version of KPack, this version of Contour. That was what was in the original issue that Kartik had also opened, to be able to say what version of the app it is, and also came up from Cube Apps' side, adding in the package to say, how can we differentiate like the chart version and app version you have in Helm into a package in order to get kind of the versioning in those 2 levels for the Cube Apps package in TC as well.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. As is often the case, excellent Tanzu repository. We should give you a title. You're the Tanzu knowledge repository. Thank you.
Great. Any other comments? Okay. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining this week's edition of the Tanzu Community Edition weekly community meeting. If you're watching this from home, we do hope you join us at the next one. We would love to meet you and get your feedback and have be able to help with anything you may have needed with the TCE stuff. So with that, thanks and have a great day.